So I had a unicorn tell me that I should start a vlog, and a Canadian seconded that motion. So here you are. The only person you can blame for listening to yourself listen to me talk about myself is yourself because you pressed the play button. But you can blame them for giving you that option. I suppose we could talk about my sanity considering the chance. Ugh. I suppose we could talk about my sanity considering the fact that I'm taking advice from mystical creatures. But I thought I'd talk about what I have learned since being abroad because I think it's had a big impact on me. So I think it only makes sense to start by saying why I'm studying abroad. I am an international studies major with a focus on the Middle East. And within that focus, I have taken Arabic language courses, and I specifically focus on Islamic studies, which includes a lot of cultural things. And so I chose to study abroad in the United Arab Emirates at an American university here. And that means that all my courses are taught in the American fashion, and included in that is that they're taught in English. So I figured I'd have a greater takeaway and learn more. And my decision to come here abroad for a semester was actually made before I got seriously involved in lifting. I spent probably the last month I was in Oregon really starting to think about what I was going to do when I was abroad in order to progress in the sport. But the more I got to thinking about it, I started to think about being abroad as an opportunity. If my coach was only setting the goal for me to maintain 90% strength, that gave me some flexibility in cutting weight. So I made the decision that my goal was to cut down to 75 kilos, or a weight that would allow me to compete as a 75 kilo lifter, and also to maintain as close to 100% of my strength as possible, because 90 would be great, but if I could do more, that's even better. So since I've been here for about almost exactly 3.5 months, so I'm pretty far in. I'd say that the first thing I had to learn when I got here was what my priorities were, because I am about 30 minutes to an hour away from Dubai, depending on traffic, time of day, that type of thing. And so a lot of the exchange students were here to party, and everyone has their own goals, what they want to do and whatnot. So I really had to start thinking about how was I going to spend my time. Was I going to go into Dubai multiple times a week, go, do the exchange student thing? Or was I going to spend my time in the gym, being dedicated, working hard? And that's a difficult decision to make when I'm 19, I want to have fun, I want to make friends. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you have to realize going out is a big way that college students make friends. And I've made lots of friends since I've been here, but it's also difficult because, especially early in a semester, one of the easiest ways to make friends is to go out and party with them. And I had to make the tough choice to do my training and to make going to the gym one of my top priorities if I wanted to reach my goals. And part of that is, if I wasn't just trying to maintain my strength, because that would have made it a lot easier, but I was also trying to cut a significant amount of weight. To compete, I was going to have to drop a little over 10 kilos. And so that meant counting calories, which, when you're not in the country where calorie counting apps are most popular, you're going to have a harder time. Nutrition labels are less standard here than they are in the States. Even restaurants are slightly varied from the States. You're doing a lot of guesswork. You think you know what you're eating, you might not. And So counting calories almost means being a little bit less adventurous with your food. You can't just go try everything you want to try. And like you can, but you have to limit it. You have to think about it as a trade-off. And so with that came self-accountability, because if I wasn't counting my calories, no one was going to know that except for me. No one was telling me I had to cut weight and checking in on me. That was a choice I made for myself because I personally believe that it improves my chances within the sport. And I also had to start dealing with self-accountability within my training. Previously, I had taken a PE class through my university, and so I had a specific time when I was going. And during the summer, I had 3 scheduled training sessions a week, and I knew exactly when I had to be there. There was going to be people waiting for me, and it's a lot easier to drag yourself to the gym when you don't want to go when someone's waiting for you, because you don't want to be that person. I would say that the third thing that I've learned since being here is self-motivation, because obviously you have to have some level of self-motivation to train no matter where you are. And I do consider myself a generally hard worker, but I'm a hard worker because I'm competitive and I want to prove to people that I can do it. Here I am in a gym by myself with broken equipment. So it's really difficult, especially when previously I had been spoiled. When I was at my university training, the TA, Kenny, always held me accountable, and I always wanted to prove to him that I could work just as hard as he thought I could, because from the very first day that I did the deadlifts, the first time I deadlifted, I did 5 at 150 pounds pretty easily, and I remember that first day he compared me to Holly Mangold and that he thought I was talented like she was, and in retrospect that makes me laugh, because I think it just goes to show how not completely versed he necessarily is in strength sports, but it was motivational. It got me interested. It made me feel somewhat obligated to work hard. So go Kenny. I worked my butt off just to prove that I was as impressive as he thought I was. And then when I was in Oregon with Nowlin, I was training besides Jasa, who was super strong. A couple months earlier in a powerlifting meet, she'd squatted 309 pounds, deadlifted like 340 or something, and benched like 140. So she was a lot stronger than I was, and I really wanted to keep up. I wanted to prove that I could work just as hard as she could. I mean, I obviously couldn't move the same weights that she could, but that didn't mean that I couldn't work just as hard as she could. And I remember we used to kind of compete over ab work, because I had a really strong core and back from rowing. And so we were always trying to grab more weight than the other person and still be able to complete the exercise. And that really kept me going, just knowing that there was people watching me. I mean, in Oregon, I had Nowlin watching every rep, Jasa showing me up without even trying. So, and then now I'm here and I'm alone in a gym by myself. There's occasionally someone on a treadmill, someone playing with 2-kilo dumbbells or something, but no one's at the squat rack. I've never had to compete for the squat rack, not once. Like, no one's using the barbells. So it's a totally different environment, and I have to rely entirely on myself. The fourth thing that I've learned since being here is definitely self-awareness. Prior to being here, I had done exactly none of my own programming. When I was at my university, my instructor used a modified version of Wendler, and we worked just mostly front squats and deadlifts, and we had an Excel file that we would enter our estimated 1 rep maxes in, and it told us exactly what to do. So there was not a whole lot of thought to it. And then when I was in Oregon with Nalin, he did all of our programming for us. He estimated our 1 rep maxes. It didn't matter. He was really good at just kind of being able to see how strong you were based on how you were moving certain weights, and he would ask for your feedback on about how heavy does that feel, but you still didn't have to think about it. He put numbers on the mirror for us at the beginning of every day, and you lifted them for all of your main lifts, and that was that. You didn't really have to worry about or think about it. He chose numbers you could do. He chose numbers that could push you based on your 1 rep max. And then the only thing that we really had much freedom with was accessory work, where he gave us a starting number and we were allowed to move up so long as our technique wasn't compromised. Michael just sent me a kick, so shout out to Michael. And in addition to that, like over the summer, I got really used to my strength moving up really, really quickly. My squat estimated 1 rep max went from being 150 pounds to being 220 pounds in 3 months. Which is insane. I went from bailing, doing snatches at 65 pounds to pretty much consistently hitting them at 90 pounds every single time, and being almost completely consistent, pretty close to my PR at 95 pounds. So I gained quite a bit of strength, and I was doing so rapidly without really thinking about it. But cutting weight means that my numbers are not moving up quickly, which is frustrating when I was used to having them move quickly. And so I'm just really having to go in every day with a goal, but also having to be realistic and seeing how my body's feeling. Have I gotten enough sleep? Did I eat enough right before I came to the gym? Am I working at my maximum capacity for the day? I'm really having to become more and more aware of that. And finally, I would say a combination of all of these things that I have learned as a result of studying abroad is independence within my own training. As I think this video makes very clear, I've spent the first 7 to 8 months of my training really relying on someone else for everything. There was someone there who was doing my programming. There was someone who I was accountable to that expected me to show up at the gym. There was someone who was expecting me to work hard when I was at the gym. There was someone figuring out what my 1 rep max was. There was someone guessing what my work capacity was that was there every step of the way. And here I am trying to maintain strength, which I'm doing very successfully. I'm cutting weight. So I've learned independence just because I have to rely on myself for all of these things that I was used to relying on someone else. And I think that learning all these things makes me a better athlete now, because I don't need someone. I cannot wait to be back in the States and have a coach to rely on, because it's a lot easier if you do have that to lean on, but also just the ability to do it myself makes me a better athlete. And so that's that.